Hi everyone, I'm Dr. Rachel Horrocks-Birss from the Academic Skills Centre, and today we're going to be talking about presentation skills. We'll look very practically at things like how do you stand and how do you speak when giving a presentation. A lot of what we'll talk about today will be most applicable if you're giving a presentation in person, but we'll also offer some tips for video presentations, so if that's you, keep watching. Now the first thing I'd like you to do is stand up. That may seem a little bit weird if you're in your living room or in your bedroom. So you can do this while sitting, but I suggest standing up because then you'll get the most out of this exercise. So once you've stood up, what I'd like you to do is stand in a way that you think is bad presentation posture. I always get people to do this in my classes. So what you're probably going to do now, when you're standing in a bad presentation posture, is you're probably going to look something like this. There's various other things you could have done, but this is by far the most common thing that we see. So why is this bad presentation posture? Firstly, the bad thing that we see most often is people do this. People cross their arms, and what this makes them look like is a bit angry or surly or closed off. So my top presentation tip probably is don't fold your arms when you're giving a presentation. The other thing people do when we ask them to stand in a bad presentation posture way is they kind of cross their legs like this, which is a very natural thing to do. When we're a bit nervous and we're giving a presentation, one of the first things we do is we close in on ourselves. Our shoulders fold up, our arms cross, and our legs cross as well. And there are a bunch of bad things about this. One is that it looks a bit weird, as you can see in this video. And also it makes us really unsteady. So it's very easy to kind of fall over, to lose your balance when you're like this. So it actually makes you less able to present. And the final thing that we see when we ask people to stand in a bad way is their head kind of goes down. They look at like the shoulders slump, and they just look not engaged. So how do we fix these things? How do we fix our head, shoulders, arms, legs? What I'd like you to do now is stand in a way that is kind of a good posture for presentations. So take a sec, straighten yourself out, stand in a way that you think is good presentation posture. So what you're probably doing is something more like this. There's a couple things that are good about this. Firstly, you've got your arms by your sides. So this feels really, really weird. I know that. It feels weird to me as I'm standing here. But genuinely, it does not look nearly as stupid as it feels. When your arms are nicely by your sides, you're not closing yourself off. You're leaving your arms free to make some gestures if you need it. You don't want to over gesture. We'll talk about that in a minute. But you also don't want to be kind of pinning your arms to any one place. The second important thing is you want to plant your legs fairly firmly. We don't want kind of like sort of robotic planting, but it's kind of nice and comfortable, like hip width apart, nicely comfortably on the floor. And the third thing is head is up, shoulders are back, clearly, confidently able to project and speak to you. So arms by sides, legs planted, head up. That's quite a good presentation posture and a good way to start. Another really good thing about this sort of posture is it leaves you quite open. It means that you can take really deep breaths, which are probably the most valuable thing for your nerves. If you're nervous, one of the things we tend to do is kind of crunch in on ourselves. But the problem is that this actually makes us feel more nervous. It traps the nervousness in our body. So opening up, taking a deep breath with your shoulders back, your legs out a bit, that actually releases a lot of the nervousness. So when you're nervous, it may be your natural tendency to go like this, but actually going like this will make you feel better. All right, now we've got our posture set. What's the next thing we need to think about? The next big thing would be about kind of what are we wearing or how have we kind of pulled back our hair, shoes, that sort of stuff. So the first thing is that you want to wear something that is comfortable. You don't want to constantly be trying to adjust your clothes as you're speaking. You want to make sure that your shoes are comfortable. Let's say if you've got a heel, that it's not too high. You want to make sure that you've tried them out beforehand. I once started doing a presentation with a new pair of shoes that squeaked every single time I took a step. So not optimal. So wear clothes that you're comfortable with. Wear ones that won't be terribly distracting, so avoid crazy loud patterns. And also think about things like your hair. Does your hair need to be tied back? Are you likely to constantly be fiddling with it if your hair is loose, for instance? So I have a bad habit of kind of playing with my hair while I give presentations. It's generally a good idea to pull it back somehow. So think about those sorts of things. Think about if you're wearing any jewelry or any belts, that kind of stuff. And make sure it's clothes that you're just very comfortable in and confident in. And a final word now on how do we move. So as we talked about, hands by sides is a great thing, but you also want to think a little bit about hand gestures, what feels natural to you. You don't want to constantly be gesticulating, but a little bit of hand motion can actually be quite a good way of pulling your audience in. Another question is, do we walk around or not? You'll notice in this video I'm pretty static because I'm filming this in my living room, and if I move too much, I'm going to end up kind of off camera, and that's going to be a bit disconcerting for everyone. So if you're in front of a group of people, it is definitely okay to move a bit. So moving like forward a little bit, moving back a little bit, kind of gesturing, that's all fine. But you do want to think about doing that intentionally and not kind of just nervously walking around because, as you can see, it looks quite weird and distracting to everyone. So normally, feet firmly planted is the best way to go. And avoid kind of constantly rocking back, because this looks like you're kind of scared of your audience and you don't want to be there. In fact, what's actually better to do is kind of almost rock forward on the balls of your feet rather than constantly rocking back or crossing your legs. So best thing to do, legs apart, stand fairly still, and maybe move around a little bit if you need to. If you have slides, so if you're presenting in person, then what you can do is I'd suggest looking at your slides like this, kind of half on, rather than turning around and just looking at your slides like that. Because people can't see your face and they can't hear you if you turn fully around. So having your legs kind of planted a bit at kind of an angle and turn like that is a much better way of demonstrating your slides if you've got them. Finally, we want to keep our head up and keep looking at the audience. If you are using notes, make sure that you are looking at your audience more than you're looking at your notes. So be looking continually towards the audience, look up, smile, engage with the audience, and make it look like you actually enjoy being there. Pretend you're talking to a friend or to a real person, which you are. So make sure that you're open to the audience and you're actually presenting to them, not just reading off a script. So these are my top presentation tips. I hope that's really helpful both for your physical presentations and also in some cases for your video presentations as well. Thank you.